civil servants and our litigators who are also civil servants. They were all very well prepared, and it was a unanimous vote by the 5-member board at that point in time. It's unfortunate that these 2 board members have resigned. They have given tremendous service to North Carolina and many years of experience prior to being on the state board as county board members. So it's unfortunate that they won't be serving with us. They've done a tremendous amount of work for North Carolinians. In terms of how this affects voter fraud, what we did and what the board did by agreeing to these settlements, we had a number of court cases that were going to run right up to the election and possibly change the rules of the game. But by coming to a settlement agreement unanimously and working with the plaintiffs, we now have clarity for the voters and clarity for our county elections to administer this pivotal election. And so really it just gave clarity to laws that we already have in place.
All right, Karen Brinson-Bell, thank you so much. Good luck during this busy election season. North Carolina, a very pivotal state. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
As coronavirus cases start dropping, Florida's governor is lifting all COVID restrictions and changing something else, which could cause those numbers to go back up, health experts warn. That's next. Plus, as the White House attacks its own FBI director, the last FBI director, James Comey, who was fired by President Trump, well, he'll join us.
You have big plans for you. Eating well, losing weight, and living a healthy lifestyle. That's the goal. But this stuff is tough, and it's easy to feel like you don't have what it takes to change. Here's the secret, though. It's all in your head, and Noom can help show you how to unlock it. Based in psychology, Noom empowers you with the wisdom to understand the why behind your decisions, so you can make healthier ones. Here is how it works. First, go to Noom.com/CNN News and answer a few easy questions about your health and weight loss goals. And then start Nooming. Noom will help change your relationship with food, and it conveniently fits into your life. So you can look up recipes, read an article, and log your meal anytime, anywhere. Sign up for your trial today by visiting Noom, Noom.com/CNN News. Change your thinking, change your habits, and change for good with Noom.
In today's Health Lead, the United States just hit a major unwanted milestone, 7 million coronavirus cases. And as CNN's Nick Watt reports, states in the West and the Midwest are the new coronavirus hotspots in the U.S.
Yeah, something looks off here.
7 million COVID cases now confirmed in the United States. More than double Europe's case count, and many more people live there.
Unlike Europe, unlike Asian countries, we are starting off this fall and winter with a very high level of infection.
And here's where we are. New York State is now creating its own task force to review any vaccine approved by the feds. Frankly, I'm not going to trust the federal government's opinion, said Governor Andrew Cuomo, despite this pledge.
Our experts who know about vaccines will make this determination, and it'll be only based upon the science and the data, not politics. That's my pledge.
One influential model now predicts 3,000 Americans will be dying every day by the end of the year, more than triple our current toll. If 95% of Americans would wear masks, those researchers say we'd save nearly 100,000 lives by January 1st. But apparently, only 48% of us are willing to mask up.
Is this what I need here?
Meanwhile, the mask-averse governor of Missouri and the state's first lady have both now tested positive for COVID-19. So have the pro-mask first lady and governor of Virginia. As I've been reminding Virginians throughout this crisis, wrote Governor Ralph Northam, COVID-19 is very real and very contagious.
Given the fact that we have never got down to a good baseline, we are still in the first wave.
All that red, those are states where average case counts are right now rising. In Colorado, around 1,000 confirmed cases now at CU Boulder.
I'm honestly frustrated and disappointed that these officials couldn't have seen the writing on the wall.
Still, out west, a limited Pac-12 football season will now kick off early November. The league had said there would be no play until next year. Different folks, different strokes. New York and Florida both holding steady for now. Today, Florida moves into phase 3 opening.
And what that'll mean for the restaurants is that there will not be limitations from the state of Florida.
Meanwhile, New York City just made the outdoor dining option permanent and year-round.
Now, the governor of Florida wants to get business back open. Totally understandable, but the state is still seeing well more than 2,000 new COVID cases every single day. The governor has also suspended all fines for non-mask wearing, and Jake says he expects to host a full Super Bowl in February.
Okay, Nick Watt, thank you so much. Let's bring in CNN's chief medical correspondent, Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Sanjay, so the United States, no other country has more coronavirus cases than us. The U.S. went from 6 million to 7 million cases in less than a month. What do you read into this?
Well, this is the plateau that we've been talking about for some time. If you do the math, you'll find that, we went from 5 to 6 million cases roughly around the same time, and we're just sort of stuck in this plateau, 30 to 40,000 new infections per day. The concern is with that much virus circulating, going into the fall, people are going to be inside more, people are going to schools, more mobile, that the numbers could start to really take off again. You see how we compare to the rest of the world. I don't know if we have the graphic to show, the closest model, 1918, what happened then, but sort of going into that fall season, and this is 102 years ago, the population of the country was a third of what it is now, but it was right around this time, Jake, that you saw a significant increase in cases. We don't want to see that, obviously, but the thing is, Jake, as you well know, we've talked about, you can't look at these things sort of, linearly. Once you start to get a certain amount of a significant viral transmission, then the numbers start to really shoot up. So we got to make sure that these numbers don't continue to go up, because if not, they'll go into exponential growth.
And Sanjay, in just the last week, coronavirus cases began trending up in 23 states, most in the West and the Midwest. Now, we have seen these kinds of spikes before. Are you noticing any common theme?
Yeah, I mean, the first time we really saw a significant spike related to an event was Memorial Day weekend. We saw it again after July 4th. So these holiday weekends, there's clearly a lot of people who are increasingly moving around at that point, clustering together. And now Labor Day weekend. So, a few weeks, it's not an exact science, but a few weeks after these types of weekends, you do see an increase in the number of infections. The concerning thing now, again, Jake, is that the climate is changing as well. People aren't outside as much. And again, the schools, even if younger people are less likely to get sick, which they are far less likely to get sick for sure, but they can still potentially transmit the virus. So we're seeing those ingredients sort of repeat a pattern over and over again.
And Sanjay, today Florida moved into phase 3 of that state's reopening. Governor DeSantis saying that regardless of local restrictions, restaurants can open at full capacity. Now, Florida's case count has been holding steady, but the state averages still about 100 coronavirus-related deaths every day and 2,000 infections every day. What do you make of the decision to reopen?
Well, this is, to a public health official, this is sort of an obvious thing. The idea of reopening when we're nowhere near containment in a particular place. And let me put a little bit of context on that. What does it mean to actually have this virus contained versus mitigating? Somewhere between 1 in a million to 1 in 100,000 per person new cases. So, in the country as a whole, that would be below 3,500 cases. We're at 35,000. Florida has a population of about 21 million, I believe. So you would want to see fewer than 200 cases. They're at 2,000. So there's just way too much viral transmission. I get the idea of wanting to reopen, and obviously Governor DeSantis has gone through this before. You saw what happened when they had that big spike. That's when they reopened. That's obviously a concern. But inside restaurants with full capacity, that's the worst possible sort of scenario. People can't mask, they're eating, get a lot of viral transmission. There is no mask mandate. There's no fine. Masks are recommended, but there's no fine if you don't wear one. I mean, these are all the wrong sort of decisions as far as actually trying to bring this pandemic under control. It's basically like saying, hey, this is the best we can do. Maybe it'll get worse. We're willing to take our chances.
New York City is going to now allow outdoor dining permanently. Restaurants are going to be able to use sidewalks and heat lamps long term. What do you think of that decision? Will that make a difference?
Yeah, Jake, this comes up a lot, and and you and I've talked about outdoor versus indoor. Just that simple denominator. How big of a difference does it make? It does make a big difference. Outdoors, because of the way that this virus can maybe even aerosolize. If you have a huge space, the outdoor space, it's far less likely to become concentrated. How much less likely? Well, I've looked at a bunch of different studies, and they say it's probably 18 times safer, really, in terms of viral transmission to be outside versus inside. Obviously, it depends what kind of indoor setting, but a closely clustered indoor setting where the ventilation's not as good as the worst, and outdoors a lot better. These situations still depends. How close are people going to be together? What sort of proximity are they going to have to staff? Are people going to be wearing masks? I think in New York they will be. It's still concerning, in the middle of a pandemic to bring people together in any significant numbers. But outdoors, way better than indoors.
All right, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, thank you so much. Appreciate it. It's one of the most uncomfortable handshakes between then FBI Director James Comey and President Trump. Since then, reality has been stranger than fiction, and now James Comey is reliving it all in a new television series with Jeff Daniels playing him. Both men will join me next. And we're back with our politics lead. Today, the White House Chief of Staff publicly criticized FBI Director Christopher Wray for saying that he has seen no evidence of widespread voter fraud. The previous FBI Director, James Comey, is scheduled to testify next week before the Senate Judiciary Committee to discuss the origins of the Russia investigation. That will be just days after Showtime airs a new film about Comey's tenure at the FBI in 2016 and 2017 called The Comey Rule. Joining me now to discuss is a special team-up, former FBI director under President Trump, James Comey, and the man who plays him in this new series, The Comey Rule, award-winning actor Jeff Daniels. It's a pleasure to have you both on the show. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
So, Director Comey, let me start with you. I want to get to the series, but first, there's a lot of stuff in the news. I want to get your opinion on the White House once again this morning publicly criticized its own FBI director, Director Wray, his testimony denying that there is evidence of massive voter fraud undercuts what President Trump keeps saying. Take a listen to the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows.
Your own FBI director says he has seen no evidence of widespread voter fraud by mail or otherwise.
Well, with all due respect to Director Wray, he has a hard time finding emails in his own FBI, let alone figuring out whether there's any kind of voter fraud.
What's your reaction?
It's lonely and difficult to be a person of integrity in this administration. Chris Wray is a person of integrity. The American people can believe what he says, and I'll leave it there.
President Trump this week continuing his campaign of repeatedly refusing to commit to a peaceful transition of power after the November election, should he lose. The White House claims he'll accept the results if the election is, quote, free and fair, but they don't explain how they define that. Do you consider this dangerous rhetoric?
Oh, of course. And everyone, no matter your politics, should see it the same way. And I would hope that Republicans who were planning to vote for Donald Trump should ask themselves, am I really going to vote for someone who says they won't abide the culture, the norm, the transition that has made us America? How could you support such a person?
One other point before I get to the film. Ahead of your testimony on Capitol Hill next week, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Lindsey Graham, he's released new documents showing that the FBI investigated dossier author Christopher Steele's primary subsource because of contacts with Russian intelligence officers. Republicans obviously saying that undermines the dossier even further, which they argue undermines the entire Russia investigation. What do you think?
I haven't read what they put out. I'll read it before I testify next week, and I'll answer whatever questions they have. And again, remind them and everybody who still cares about this that the investigation was begun based on information having nothing to do with the Steele dossier, setting aside the merits of the Steele dossier, which are important to debate. This was begun based on credible information unconnected to that material, and we should have been fired if we didn't investigate.
And in fact, that is all illustrated in the film, The Comey Rules, where George Papadopoulos is at a bar talking to an Australian diplomat about that. Let's turn to the film project and bring Jeff Daniels back in. Jeff, it's almost surreal to think that Director Comey was fired a few years ago with how much has happened since then. Here's a little clip from the series.
Boss, I'm uncomfortable with this. It looks too much like you're being pulled into a conspiracy by the president of the